Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? How's everybody doing? Hey, sorry about that. Hey, you tuned in to Street Therapy KC. What's your man CJ Chris sitting here in the air chair once again. Sitting here. Today is Tuesday. Sorry, today is Tuesday, June the 30th. Uh, 4 p.m. is our time. We are sitting high atop in the air chair. All right, everybody. Sorry about that. Had a little relapse there, difficulty. But anyway, yeah, sitting high atop in the air chair. Um, Here at KUAW Studios once again. Here at KUAW Studio, the voice of the community here in Kansas City, Missouri. Got a uh, got a few things to talk about on today, but I want to make sure everybody's all right. Want to make sure everybody's safe. Everybody's safe and sound out here, especially with all that's going on. You know, we got uh, a whole lot of issues going on. We got COVID supposed to make another round coming through here, and and the whole nine, man. So I want to make sure everybody's safe out there. And if anybody wants to, during the course of the show, if you want to weigh in on anything that we're talking about, we have supposed to have a guest come in here, and we'll see how that works out. But I'm gonna go ahead and start the show and get this thing going. So we are on KUAW.org. Our phone number is 816-599-6893. 816-599-6893. We are here, so give us a call if you would like to, or if you want to drop a line or whatnot. But without further ado, we want to go ahead and start this show out. But I want to start off with this one here. The high, the the highlight today, really, I want to talk about the death of the young man, the baby that was killed the other day. I want to start off on a somber note, and we can kind of shift the show. But really want to give some acknowledgement to that, and prayers to the family and the family and supporters of those. But baby legend, I think that was his name. Yeah, little baby legend, 4 year old uh, uh, child that was shot and killed, shot in the face and killed. So I want to talk about that a little bit before we get into the show. I like to talk about our lives and how our lives have to matter not only to us individual, but they have to matter to our community, and we need to do a better job at that. It's one thing to say, that our lives matter, when police brutality, which is fine, and it should. But on the other token, our lives need to matter to us as well, and that murder that I heard it was a drive-by or whatnot. It was a senseless killing, and that's something that we need to address in our communities. And oftentimes we're afraid to talk about it, or we kind of gloss over it. But before I talk about that, like anybody has, if anyone has if anybody has anything to say, or if anybody has something that they know that happened with in this murders, please speak up. I think it's 474 TIPS. 474 tips is the anonymous hotline that you can call and get your voice heard. And please, if anybody knows anything about is a baby legend getting murdered, getting killed by gun violence, and that's something that we need to talk about. Oftentimes we've been using the phrase, stay woke, and and I'm king, and things like that, and queen and things like that. Which and fine, we do come from kings and queens. Our history didn't start off with slavery. We understand that, but on the same token, is when you see something, you gotta say something. I'm from the hood, and I don't live far from the hood where I live now, but and since when these things happen, man, we have to say something. We got to speak out. We got to speak up against that. Oftentimes these are communities that are affected by that. When things happen like that, we don't go We don't go out and shoot up anybody else's community. We don't go out and terrorize anybody else's community because that's what it is. It's terrorism, man. I mean, it really is. It's domestic terrorism. It's inside terrorism. From within. And oftentimes, and we look at murder and killing and things like that and say, well, all right, then we're doing that because that's something that we were taught. I heard the thing say, well, we were taught to hate each other. We were taught to do this, and a lot of that may be true. A lot of it is systemic. A lot of it's things that are engraved in our DNA. But that's kind of a that can be true, but that's kind of a cop out too, man, because we know better than that. When we look at the statistics and we look at the communities that that we strive to be our best in, the communities the communities that we strive to be our best in, the communities that we uh that we really hurt in is our community. You hear the phrase hurt people. Well, that's a true phrase. If you're hurting and you don't know how to get that out productively, and you don't know how to properly work through that pain, then you're gonna hurt somebody else. Until you're taught better. When you know better, you do better. You should. You know, huh? Right on. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, yes. Yeah. The Kansas City traffic. Yeah, our guest is on their way down here. We just ran to a few snags, but like I was saying, hurt people, and that shouldn't be an excuse to continue to want to go out and hurt each other, or that shouldn't be a cop out or a plea to literally go out and cause senseless murder on each other, man. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. We got a lot of people that would like to gloss over. We hear the phrase, nobody wants to be a snitch. And I don't think it's really about being snitch. I think it's about talking and just kind of getting into a zone and getting comfortable, and also getting getting comfortable and also getting familiar with your neighbors and your people or whatnot. I think that's what's really important, man. That we really need to talk about and address, and talk about that. But it's okay. Right on. Yeah. So all right. So anyway, that's that. Like I said, definitely thoughts and prayers go out to the family of baby legend that was killed the other day. So like I said, 474 TIPS is the number that you can call. And you can do it anonymously if you know how that happened and things like that. So that's that. Put my mask on real quick. We have the guests coming up. Make sure we're straight. Hold on. All right. All right. Hello. All right. I'll put that back up in a minute. All right. Yeah. All right. We good. Make sure I'm straight with the mask. We got guests coming in, so you got the mask and the whole social distancing and the whole nine. You know what I'm saying? So that's all that's going on, man. But yeah, just in general, y'all, we just want to be careful. Hello. Just in general, just want to be careful, man, and watch what's going on. When obviously you can kind of sit around and see what's going on in communities and things like that. And when things happen, man, it's good to be able to vent and talk to people and try to get that off your chest. But also, man, like I said, say something when you see something on or whatnot. But that's that. Like I said, Black lives do matter. Our lives matter. Our lives do matter. Our lives have to matter to us. First. Our lives have to matter to us first, and people have to see that our lives do matter to us first. That way, they will respect our lives. If we respect our lives, then it will force people to respect us and things like that. That's where the power comes in. There's strength in numbers, there's strength in power. But when people see that you're segmented, you're separated, and you don't have a clear agenda. You don't know, what your focal point is. You don't know where your focus is. You're kind of all over the place. Nobody really takes you serious. And unfortunately, I don't want that to be where we are. But it just seems like when you're not really focused, then you're all over the place, and people don't really take you serious. And for other people to take us serious, we have to be serious with ourselves. I think Rick Ross was talking about some time ago buying back the block and things like that. I think a lot of times that's important too. For us to want to buy back the block and things like that. Well, first of all, we gotta fix up the block. And then we have to be able to communicate on the block and things like that. So our lives do matter. And crime is one of the aspects, but it's also not only is it crime, it's the socioeconomic status. It's jobs, which deals with that. It's communities, which also deals with that. So it's the whole nine that also deals with us wanting to be able to kind of come over and be able to come over and get it all situated and whatnot. So we're gonna go ahead and take a quick break here. But like I said, KUAW.org is our web page, and 816-599-6893 is our number. So give us a call if you like to engage in the conversation. So right back on the other side with CJ Street Therapy. Be right back. All right. Mm-hmm. Plies did. I didn't even see it. All right, I guess we're back. We hot. All right, yeah. So hey, you guys are back on the other side of the break with your man CJ on Street Therapy, KC on KUAW Radio, voice of the community here in Kansas City, Missouri. I now have the guest here in the studio with me. I have to my left is Miss Marshonda. How are you? Right on, good, good. And to my right, I have Alana and Ariana. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
All right, all right. Turn that just a little bit. Yeah, cool. So we can hear you and see you. She's trying to hide. No, but no. So the last segment we're just talking about the young man that was murdered the other day, the 4-year-old. I think that was our youngest murder this year of 2020. He's 4 years old. So and what I said was, in order for we know Black Lives Matter when obviously when the cops kill us and things like that, things like that. But also we have to matter to each other, and a lot of times is we get upset in protests, and I've gone to protests, and we get upset when others, affect us, but we need to get upset when we affect us. How do y'all feel about that?
Well, for me personally, this isn't the first thing I would say since the Black Lives Matter has become so big
Right.
to everyone. I know when they were first protesting at the plaza, someone who goes to my church, one of his students lost his dad, and the father was just going to pick his son up from the protest, and he got killed during that situation. So I feel like the reason that no one is taking us seriously with the whole Black Lives Matter because in the Black community we don't act as if Black Lives Matter.
Right.
So I totally agree that we need to start within ourselves. We need to stop killing each other in
Yeah.
order for them to stop killing us.
But where does it start? Does it in your opinion? And I'll let you guys answer this or whatever. But does it come from a hatred toward ourselves, or is it something that we've learned and we perpetuated years and years and years, or what? Where does that come from? That just I'd rather beat up somebody that looks like me than somebody that looks like somebody else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier for me to come want to rub on somebody that's black, a brother, than somebody else that's like, what I'm saying, that's another race or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like it's almost been like we've been set up to hurt each other.
Conditioned.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I feel like the system has taught us that. Like I'm only in this time now, but I'm sure, when Black people finally started to get, started to become educated and started to know, a group of educated Black people, I think, is something that's very scary to white people in America.
Dangerous. Yeah.
And I think that long time ago, whenever, but I feel like we were probably set up to go against each other and take each other out, and they didn't have to do it as much.
Yeah.
We've been set up for failure, generations and generations and generations. So we just have to look at the bigger picture as a culture, and we have to work together. That's how we can go farther.
Exactly. And people just want to see us fail and just think that everything that's going on now is okay, but really it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was listening. I like the song by David Banner. It's I think he's on there with Big Crit, but it's called Pain. And it said, we learned this from you. You know what I'm saying? And he goes in on that verse, and I said, man, it's got to be a learned behavior. And then you look at the movie. Was it Django Unchained? When Jamie Foxx was sitting there and they showed the slave owner literally sitting there enjoying the fact that these brothers was like beating the mess out of each other and thought it was something that was entertainment, but then to take that and turn it into something that's now it seems like it's unfortunately the norm, so that's kind of how I see it, and I think we can get away from that. But people say, well, what's is it fatherlessness? Well, I mean, we got a lot of Black fathers in the house. Is it joblessness? Well, there's some jobs out there too. So then it seems like it could only be the fact that it's something that's a learned behavior that we got to try to push past. and then relearn. Like I was reading just the other day, there was a law that says, it was permitted on the books where black men couldn't read. And, that was against the law to teach a brother how to read. Yep.
Which is crazy, I think, because everybody needs an education, no matter who you are, what race you are.
Absolutely.
And I kind of feel like that was a way that they set us back so that we couldn't, like I said, a group of educated black people is something to be fearful of, honestly.
Right.
And I think that was their way of pushing us back even further so that we couldn't be as good as we truly can be.
Keeping us there.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel a lot of the stereotypes have came from. And that,
ignorant.
That if you are born in poverty, you're not going to be smart.
Yeah.
Or certain things like that. So it's just all about rising above that, seeing the bigger picture, planning of how we're going to get out of all these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that, and I had this old black man, this brother told me, he said, man, you know what they used to say about blacks years ago? I said, what's that? He said, if you ever want to hide something from a black man, just put it in a book. And man, that hit me hard. I'm like, wow. He said, if you ever want to hide something from a black man, just put it in a book. He said, because we don't read. And it made me begin to say, wait, what's the last book I read? I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then, because you read while you're in school because they make you read. You have to read. But then are you going to just go home and just, voluntarily pick up a book? Oftentimes it's not really.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we got internet at our fingertips. We got all this different resources. We got school online, this online, this. But it seems like we have so much at our fingertips, but we access it less.
That's true. That is very true.
But it's there, and social conditioning. We're all sitting here with masks on because of this whole nonsense, this COVID-19.
Yeah.
Like we in China or something, man. It's just crazy. But I mean, that's the times that we live in. Even with COVID-19, I'll drop down to that. But how has that affected your lives personally?
I honestly want to say it's affected me in a good way and in a bad way. I have said before, I try to think, how would it be if all this Black Lives Matter stuff and the George Floyd killing would have happened if I was still in school? How would I feel then? Every black kid in America has a different situation school-wise, but specifically for me, I go to a school which I'd probably say 85% of my school are Caucasian people.
Yeah.
So I think, and some of them are openly racist at my school as well. So I think that would be really difficult for me to be in that situation. But I also think that due to Corona, I have educated myself more on things about Black history and taken. I'm just sitting in the house, so I have time to better myself, and I've been kind of bettering myself as far as like Black Lives Matter stuff.
Absolutely. How's it affect?
I agree with that. Probably the biggest negative impact for me was probably track season. School sports junior year, but there's other ways that we can figure that out. But that's the biggest thing. But I agree with what Marshonda was saying.
Absolutely.
It educated me definitely on what's going on in the world and just how we can reform, I guess.
Sure.
And same with me. I agree with Marshonda. And I'm also like, for me, I'm mixed, so it's like which side do I stand on and like which side I don't. But
how does that work?
I don't really know. It's like, okay, so like at school it's like different because I'm too white for the Black kids, or I'm too ghetto for the white kids, or it's just a lot of stereotypes that go on for me. But I'm cool with everybody. I'm friendly with everybody. I love to talk to people, get to know everybody. I don't discriminate.
That's good, because my little ones are mixed, and my 9-year-old asked me, she said, well, Dad, when am I? I said, well, you have both, and so you're not either or, you just, and she's like, oh, so for her to be 9 years old and ask me that question, tells me that she's been thinking about it, because she does. She's got a lot of white friends and she got Black friends and whatnot. So, and it does kind of, I guess her thing was like, well, where do I fall in on this thing? You know what I'm saying? Do I gravitate to? I said, no, you can play with everybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to choose, because you can just be. I think a lot of times just the society makes us hate people just because, like for no reason, you know what I'm saying? Like you look at little kids and probably seen a lot of memes where the black kid and white kid run up and hug each other. You know what I'm saying? You see a lot of stuff, and it's just like they don't even care about that stuff. We get so stuck in our minds to get older. It's like we get older and we love less. As children, we're just innocent, but we get older and we get sucked into this whole vortex of all this nonsense, and we just take it on.
Yeah, I think that goes back to like hate is taught. Like you don't come out and hate someone because of the color of their skin. So for example, for your daughter, you were saying, I honestly feel like that's really sad that at age 9 she has to think about that. I think it's sad for any mixed child in the world who has to feel like, what side do I lie with? Do I go with my mom or dad or whoever, however it is?
And and it's hard because like it's hard for me because I don't know what to think or how to feel because honestly it just hurts my feelings that people could say stuff like, oh, you're too white or you're too black or whatever. It's just it's really something to think about.
Or you talk too proper.
Yeah.
I get told that.
There's no.
Oh, you talk so white.
Yeah, there's no such thing though. You just have
Absolutely.
respect, and you're just talking in a way that you show some respect.
Right.
I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. I think that's more like colorism in our own culture, and
light
about
and dark.
being light skin, dark skin, too dark, too light.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with that, honestly.
No. Yeah.
Every shade is beautiful to me.
Honestly. It is, no doubt. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is when you brought up the you talk too white. My entire life I've always been told you talk too white. But the thing that kind of makes me sad is why can't we hold the standard for black people to sound correct or to speak with respect or to
you ain't gotta say cause
we can talk proper and it kind of upsets me because it's kind of like, why do other black people feel like black people can't be successful? Why can't I talk like I have some common sense? Why can't I talk with respect and carry myself that way? Why is it considered too white? It's almost as if we only feel like white people can be intelligent or have common sense or carry themselves with respect.
Yeah.
And again, that's what we were born into.
Yeah.
Like
a
generational curse almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the cool part about it is that a lot of young people are understanding that, and it's kind of like there's like, you know what, we understand it, we know what it was, and we're kind of beyond that. Like my oldest son, he's 19 and he's in college. He was at Mizzou. Now he's going to a different college when school starts back. But and he's got a lot of white friends, and so like I asked him, I said, when y'all listen to rap, do they say the N-word? And if they do say the N-word, how does it make you feel? Do you just like, do you dismiss it because that's your homie? Or do you be like, man, you can't say that? Or, how does that make you feel? You know what I'm saying? Because, where do you fall on it? Do you just, if somebody else uses it, does it bother you? But if they use it, does it not bother you and everything? So, and just in their conversations, and they've had some conversations, especially with the, Floyd and the Arbery and things like that, a lot of these things, the Breonna things has come up, and they've had conversation. I think that's the hard part. Like you all were saying was the fact that the social distancing is kind of major to where I guess you're not really at school, so you're not really around them as much, so you really don't have to deal with it face to face, as much. But yet still you have to deal with it because you still know them.
Yeah.
And then it's okay. Well, where do you draw that line? Is that line to disrespect you as your culture, or are they really trying to understand you as your culture? Because that's a lot that's going on. You get a lot of white folks that are saying, I apologize for what happened, and I'm sorry I didn't know what you guys went through and things like that. So where do y'all draw the line?
For me specifically, I'm kind of in this situation. I had one of my best friends is actually white, and she doesn't really understand everything. Now she's definitely not racist, but like I don't play the game of saying the N-word around me, whether black or white. Like you're not gonna call me that. Like I don't like that at all. But for me, I'm kind of where you're saying, where do we draw the line? It's kind of hard for me right now. Just because she doesn't understand it, and it surprised me because one time I posted something on Snapchat, and I was kind of just like, I see people differently. A few people I consider friends, you know, this, that, and other. You know, you don't use your platform, and it shows to me. Like
Right.
the fact that it's not important enough for you to say something about it, you know, is clear to me. And she slid up. She was obviously offended about it, and she said something about it. And I just kind of, I don't really know like
Right.
where to stand with it, you know,
Right.
because you know she's best friends with me and someone who's also mixed. So it's not like she's not around black people. I mean, me and our other friend who's mixed are
Right.
her closest friends, and it's just honestly hard for both of us to see how can she not understand, you know, when you have someone who's on the other side.
Yeah.
How is it so difficult for you to get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, because our you know, our next door neighbor, they were talking about it, and she's a, you know, young white, and she's in college, you know, and she was like, she said, Chris, I totally understand. She said, but I just don't know how to approach it, you know, and I think what she was saying is, I don't know how to approach it in such a way that if I say something about it, will my white friends be mad at me because I'm trying to stick up for the black people? And it's like I'm on the white side, but she's like, well, I'm not really choosing sides. I'm trying to get to understanding, and I think that's where she is. She's in like this middle lane where she wants to respect everybody as the human race, but then she also, obviously, she probably knows that she's got some white friends that feel like, nah, we don't rock with the black folks.
Yeah.
You know.
I go to a school where there's a lot of cliques, I guess. I go to Blue Springs High School, so it's a really big school. And I've seen kind of what Marshonda was saying. There's a lot of people who weren't using their platform or talking on the situation, but when the situation would be brought up, they would kind of just like dust it off like it was no big deal. And honestly, that kind of like hurt my feelings because I know they don't understand like what it is to be a black person growing up, and they already know, like, I'm the type of person, like, I let people know, like, I don't agree with you saying the N-word. I don't like that. Racial slurs, racial jokes. I'm not really that type of person to be doing that.
Right.
But, like, kind of what Marshonda was saying, like, I was kind of stuck in the middle. I was thinking about it, like, how do I respond to these people with being respectful and telling them how I feel?
Yeah.
And, I kind of just, like, explained it all on social media. I was just like, this isn't right because we're all humans, you know, and what we've gone through, everything. So, I don't know. I was kind of just stuck in the middle, but now I've learned to just step away and I just read people. And if they don't match up to me or agree with me, I kind of just, I don't know. I don't deal with them.
Yeah. So has social media has social media being one of those launching points, just being like good or bad? Because there's a lot of horrible stuff on social media, you know, because there's like, you know, I guess if you feed into it, you constantly see stuff just like every other day is, you know, a cop strangling somebody, or every other day it's this. You're like, good Lord, I'm tired of seeing it. But then it's like, I'm tired of seeing it, but I want to see it so I know what's going on. But then, you know, then you get like a lot of these people that comment on it, then you read their comments, and you're just like, I wanna, you know, just wanna say something. It's just like, you know, so to really not to let it consume you, man, because it can take up all your time. You know, like I was on Instagram, it was like 2 hours later, and I'm like, I need to get off this stuff, man. That's 2 hours I can't get back, you know, and that's really what, and I think that's really what it is, you know, creating that balance. You know, like my cousin, he went to Blue Springs. He was in the swim team, but you know, and they talk about him saying he talk white, but he's just probably like it's like, no, you eloquent. You don't have to use, you know, ghetto grammar and nothing like that. You can just talk normal, you know. But that's the thing. So one other question here I like to tackle. So as far as the changing of the different historical things, like people are upset about the Confederate flag coming down and things like that, and then folks are having real big issues with that. How do you feel about that? Do you know a lot about the Confederacy?
For me personally, I agree with the flag coming down, honestly. Because I feel like the only reason people who are upset about this don't understand is simply because they've never driven down a street, seen a Confederate flag, and be like, oh gosh, let me pass this house.
Know what it meant,
you know. And there's people at my school who I've been friends with, and they're like, yeah, well, I just don't understand why black people don't like the Confederate flag. You know, it just symbolizes my history. Well, if you think about the history of it, these are people who fly the Confederate flag are people who wanted slavery. So to me, that's offensive.
It was an act of treason against the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just think that they don't understand because, you know, they've never lived a day in black skin before. And so I think, you know, there's other flags that symbolize, you know, racist things and stuff like that, but I think this is a step in the right direction because for example, I live in Kansas City, but I go to Liberty Public Schools. So there's a street that probably everyone in Missouri or a house everyone in Missouri knows about. This one house who has there's so many Confederate flags. Like all his windows are covered with them, everything like that.
Wow.
And I remember I ran cross country, and we used to run past that house all the time. And the feeling inside me that he was gonna come out and say something to me, and I'd be embarrassed in front of all my white cross country friends. You know, I just think they don't understand just because they don't. The history of it doesn't affect them in a negative way.
Yeah.
And we study history so we don't repeat it. So I don't understand. I feel it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
And that's history that doesn't need to be repeated. We need to get rid of it, honestly, because it is offensive and people don't know how we feel about it. It does hurt people, and I feel that a Confederacy is where a lot of hate is stored.
Because I've heard both sides of the argument. I've heard the party say, well, you know, the flag needs to come down because it was an act of treason against the United States, you know, and things like white power, whatever the case. But also I heard the party say, well, you need to leave the flag up so people can see the flag and then people can get educated behind the flag, you know what I'm saying, to understand what the flag is.
Yeah, but people can get educated with the flag down. Like, I don't think that it's a good idea for them to be up because, I mean, we look at it as like, this is what we went through, this is what our ancestors went through, and it's not something that should be continuing on.
Or praised.
Exactly.
Or praised, yeah.
Or even celebrated.
No doubt, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, you know, because, like, you know, the Confederate flag, then they're talking about changing the name of the syrup from Ancient Mama. Change that too. And Uncle Ben, you know what I'm saying? So it just seems like a lot of our history has been
erased.
It's been erased. You know, and it's like, you know, okay, if these things change, you know, what would it change to? And obviously we're living this right now, this monumental moment where we're seeing all this stuff change, and we're being able to make change. You know, I think they changed Purcell to Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, but they talking about changing it back to the Purcell. You know, just a lot of that stuff that's been going on, and we're being a part of history, but we're also creating history. Like this protest with, you know, George Floyd. I'm 41 years old. This is like the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, or heard. You know, in Paris and Rome and Germany. I'm like, good night. So you look at that and you say, are we making history? And is it just a moment or is it a movement? Because, you know, some people say, well, I think it's just a moment because something that happened. Okay, we'll get over it till the next thing. But right now, are we being able to understand that not only is it just this moment, but we're able to, you know, galvanize on that and try to get laws changed and try to get into like some of the court system and try to understand what it is to vote. And if whoever don't vote, you know, because I know people that don't vote because they say the vote has never changed for us.
Right.
That's false though.
And that's false. Yeah. You know, but that's the way they feel, you know, and I try to tell them, say, man, listen, if voting never got us anywhere, then why are they purging votes? You've seen in Atlanta, they just had some votes that were, the precincts were messed up. But voting helps.
Yeah.
Voting helps. Voting makes a big difference. You know, okay, and that's definitely a big difference. So we got somebody on the line that wants to call that wants to say something. Hey, how you doing?
Hi. I have a question for you guys.
What's your name and where you calling from, ma'am?
This is Mildred, and y'all just have a good show going.
Thank you.
And I heard that they're changing the name of the street and the statue out in the plaza. They voted on it today, and I think it was united to change it. They haven't said what they're going to change it to, but how do you feel about changing this racist person?
Yeah, J.C. Nichols.
Statue, name on the statue, and the street name. How do you feel about that? Do you think they should change it or not?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that question. Anybody can tackle that.
Did you understand what I
If I'm being completely honest, I don't even know what the name of the street is called. But
is that Nichols Parkway? J.C. Nichols, yeah. Well, we know his history. He didn't want blacks to move down there anyway. He came up with spots where we couldn't go through there.
Oh,
Yeah,
J.C. Nichols, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
You guys might be better than me on it.
I feel like it should be
I can't
changed,
hear
honestly.
what's going on, so I'm going to hang up and listen to you.
Oh, thank you for your call.
Honestly, I think it should be changed. Again, like, we have history books, we study history in school, but I feel like it should be known that he was racist, and I feel like we shouldn't praise that. We shouldn't have it on street names, because that's not who we want to be or who we should praise as a world.
Sure. Absolutely. And see, you know, we look at it like that, and I agree with that totally, you know. I was just looking him up the other day, but also, you know, we do understand when people's history is literally being taken away from them, oftentimes they ain't real happy about that.
Yeah.
So by them not being happy with us, we fine with changing it, but when somebody's upset about something, a lot of times they take action. You know, and then, you know, and that's something also that we gotta watch out and we gotta be careful for it, because, you know, I was just watching the other day, we were talking about a lot of these, you know, young black men and women coming up hanging, you know, hung and stuff, and I'm just like, why? Who's hanging people? But, you know, just a lot of those things that we gotta, you know, we gotta definitely be mindful of. You know, and I know when I was, you know, protesting down in the plaza, they were talking about, you know, defunding the police and police reform and things like that, which are all valid points. They should be. You know, when people hear, you know, defund the police, they think, you know, you were taking money from the cops. That's not what defunding the police means. Right. All that simply means is you're taking that money and allocating it to different areas. You're not just giving all the money to the cops. Okay, we're taking that money and we're cops have a payroll. Then also we have community servants and things like that. You know, and I think that's good. I think some of that money that comes from that should go to mental health.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we deal with mental health, and so you talk about, you know, a lot of the people that need help. Well, if they don't get all the help, all the money goes over here. Then you got mental health, and you got, you know, this, you got that. Well, they lose out. And so how do you you know, slow down crime and things like that? Well, you're trying to deal with some of the underlying issues, and that being one of them, mental health. We see that.
Yeah. I think also, I feel like defunding the police, I agree with you. When people hear that, they just think of take away the police or stop paying the police. And I think if people just took the time to really figure out what people mean when they say police reform and defund the police, I think it wouldn't be such a big deal. Even those who are police officers and police officer families, I don't think they would be so offended by it if they really figured out what police reform is.
Absolutely.
And what defunding the police can actually do for the good of everyone in the community.
Absolutely. Because I was reading an article the other day, they were talking about, I forgot what they call it, but I think it was in Atlanta or somewhere, where they were saying the police have been not responding to calls.
Yeah.
Because they were ticked off because of this stuff. You know, they're not responding to calls. If they get a call, they push it to the side, or if they respond to a call, they don't do what they're supposed to do. I think what we need to understand, that the police are government officials. They work for the government. And by them working for the government, that means we pay them. When we pay our taxes, that's how they get paid. You know, and all the times, you know, you see that, like, well, I don't really want to take money from the police. Well, we paying them. Yeah. You know, if you're giving them all the money and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then what do? Do you continue to pay them? I mean, they continue to pay them. They can continue to beat you over the head.
Yeah. I think a good example is, you know, that there's something going on or wrong. You know, some people are like, oh, I support first responders. Well, you don't hear anyone saying defund the firefighters or reform the firefighters, because firefighters are saving people's lives. They're not killing innocent people. you know, they go to work, they do their job. I don't think I've ever heard a story of a firefighter doing something just because of the color of someone's skin, or leaving someone in a fire or something like that if they truly couldn't get to them. So I think people just need to really look, and no one is crazy. What happened to George Floyd was on video. Anyone in their right mind knows that what happened was absolutely wrong, and that is why we have to defund the police and why we have to get police reform going so that things can change, because that was completely wrong.
It was.
On social media, I've seen here recently a lot of in the hospitals and stuff, like nurses and doctors mistreating Black people and not giving them the right support. And I think there's a statistic of they treated Black women like they didn't need medicine. There was this Black woman, she just went into labor and they didn't give her the correct medicine because they thought she was faking her pain. So again, another stereotype of Black women are strong, so they don't
be able to handle more pain.
So we need to look in that area too, definitely, because there's been a lot of African American people mistreated in hospitals and by doctors.
Yeah, and a lot of times were you gonna say something? No.
I'm just kidding.
Oh. All right, and a lot of times, you know, we see it where, you know, people say, you know, if you want to change the policing, why don't you join the police force? If you want to change this, why don't you join that? Well, it's not that easy.
Yeah, it's more complicated.
You know, it's more complicated than just me trying out for the police force. You know, a lot of times, you know, if I go to the police force and the system as it is right now, you know, how will I be treated as a police officer? But then again, I also think that shouldn't deter us from trying, though.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times in our communities, you know, we need to see people that look like us to come to our communities. Because I mean, I'm from the inner city, from right around the corner, and just like, you know, every time we saw a cop, it was just like, okay, you know, we went from the police officer that was giving us a baseball card to the one that looked like he was gonna, you know, blow our heads off if we didn't get out in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a lot of times, even when we talked about Mike Brown, I had a guy from Ferguson here, and he was just like, man, we just got tired of it. He said, we were sitting around and we lived there, you know, and we always had the cops come through harassing us, man. And so, you know, and they just got tired of it. You know, I think when you get tired of certain things, then you can do one or two things. You can tear up stuff, or you can change it one or two ways. You can change for the better, you can change for the worse. And Ferguson definitely went, you know, for the worse. But if you look right now, they just hired the first Black African American woman mayor down in Ferguson.
I love that.
Yeah, so okay, so you say, well, okay, yeah, they tore up in the neighborhood. It wasn't their neighborhood. That stuff was insured from somebody else. Yeah. But yet, them tearing up stuff, they end up getting some people elected that wouldn't have never gotten there if they wouldn't have stood their ground.
Yep.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. I think that's where change is coming from here too. With the George Floyd situation, you didn't see any charges pressed against those officers who did anything to him until after rioting.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, you know, that rioting, I mean, I'm not gonna say I support it, but I'm not gonna say I don't support it, because look at what has come from the rioting. Yeah. If that's what it takes, which I don't think it should have to go to those measures. Absolutely. I think that there should just be equality across the board, and we shouldn't have to go to those extreme measures in order to, you know, get things to change. But if that's what's changing things, then that's what people are going to keep doing, I feel like.
And again, people have grown up in oppression. Like, so if you get a bunch of angry people together, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, you know, before, you know, I said, say you got a baby that's sitting there, you know, wanting a bottle or something. At some point, when you ignore the baby for so long, the baby's gonna start screaming and throwing a tantrum. Then it's like, okay, now what do you need? Right. At first it's like, Mom, Dad, Mom. It's like, okay, give me a second. Yeah. And then they're like, ah! You're like, okay, get the bottle. And I think that's what that right there was really what caught the attention of the people's the babies, you know, the kids, young, and there's been a lot of young folks that's been out there, you know what I'm saying? And I think young people have always had the been on the front line. If you look at when Dr. King, it was the young folks that was out front of there. I think the young people, I don't know if they had, I guess I could say they had the heartbeat of the city, you know, they just had the passion and zeal for it. You know, because I think a lot of times older people like, okay, well, we understand, and we'll go. I won't say we go along with it, but we'll let
It's like
y'all
you're
fight
tired
that.
of fighting.
Yeah. Just like
For us, it's like there's hope. Like
Yeah.
if we fight now, like for me, I always say, my calls that I have weekly, I always say, I ask people like, what does Black Lives Matter mean to them exactly? And for me, it means that I'll have a son someday that can walk down the street and be okay, or I'm not gonna worry other than what any regular mom should have to worry about. Oh, hopefully my son doesn't do something that any boy would do, but not that, oh, I hope my son doesn't get shot by police. I want there to be better for me, when I get a family and when my family gets family and so on and so forth. So
Absolutely.
it's something small I can do now. And I think that's how a lot of people, like younger people, think. If I can do something now that's going to set up for the future to be better, then why not? Why not try to do something, make a little bit of change?
Absolutely. I agree. Change starts now, not later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if we don't galvanize on the change right now, it's like, we have a lot of momentum right now. Why wouldn't you use that momentum and push things forward? Like I said, I've been on so many Zoom within the last couple of weeks. It's like, man, but there's a lot of information going out there. There's a lot of great information. There was one I was on talking about police reform. And I hope that the police officers were genuine in what they were talking about testing the officers for mental illness, talking about testing the officers for training and things like that. I think those are topics that they really need to discuss. Mental psychological evaluations often, not just once, because police officers go through a lot.
Yeah.
You have to respond to a domestic violence situation. You don't have no clue what's going to happen. Or a shooting or something like that, or a job loss. So they go through a lot, not to discredit them as well. But we also understand that us in the Black community, man, we got things that we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? And for us to kind of get past that and get beyond that. So all right, so we're about to wrap it up here in just a moment. So talk about your podcast and whatnot. What you got going on?
So I pretty much do a Zoom weekly. We have a group called BCTE, Black Culture Teen Edition, and that's kind of where it started. We were all like trying to get committees, get things started, and so I kind of just took leadership on the whole doing a Zoom call, trying to reach teens. We've had people from Omaha, Texas, Illinois, so it's for everyone. We want to reach everyone, teens, everywhere, and it's just a safe place for them to talk. Just say how they feel. Everyone on there is very respectful. Everyone on there, wants to kind of hear everyone out. There's people who go on, they just sit and listen. There's people who go on and talk, say how they feel.
No.
Yeah, they sit and listen. But it's really just a spot for teens to feel comfortable, because I feel like there's, like you say, there's two ways of going about change. You can either do it in a positive way or negative way. And I'd much rather teens come there to let their energy out in a positive way versus going out doing something irrational and, messing up life for themselves.
And it's for every race.
Every race, yeah.
I think one thing that you really said that really stuck out to me just a minute ago when you said that, a safe place. And I think a lot of times that people, even jumping on your Zoom, I just noticed that like a lot of people weren't saying anything, because I'm like, man, I wonder if they don't feel like, because once you open up, then you feel free to open up. Nobody will judge you. Nobody will say nothing bad. But when you're sitting there, you're like, if I say something, they bite my head off.
Right.
If I jump out there, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I said that wrong. Maybe I offended somebody. Yeah. And creating a safe place and a safe platform, I think is really dope. That's good. That's good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, all right, is that it?
Yeah.
All right, listen, y'all tune in to Street Therapy with your man CJ on KUAW Radio. Thanks again to my co-hosts here, Marshawn and Alana and Ariana. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank y'all for coming in. I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot. So until we meet again, man, hey, God bless y'all, and catch you later.
All right.